Hey everybody, it's Matt. Welcome back to the Journey Church podcast. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to this podcast so you can automatically get our weekly episodes. And you might want to go ahead and subscribe to our Journey YouTube channel as well. You'll find messages, music, interviews, inspiring stories, and more for you all right there. Now, I hope this episode helps you take your next step in following Jesus. All right, today what I want to do is I want to start with getting you to do something that maybe is going to turn into a little bit of a relaxation technique, and you may need this, Mom. I mean, I know your family's made today amazing for you already as a mom, and nothing's gone wrong, and they've been so sweet the whole time. But just in case they haven't, there's something I want you to do. I want you to think about the most beautiful, breathtaking, blow you away kind of bucket list place you've ever been to, okay? The place that you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe. I want you to picture that place in your mind for a second. And then I want you to imagine what kind of person would complain about the place that you are thinking about right now. I mean, you can't imagine, can you? What kind of person would complain about something that extraordinary? Now, as I was thinking about this, a couple things came to mind for me over the last couple years. I've been really fortunate to find myself in a few of those blow you away kind of beautiful places. One of them that came to mind was Yosemite. Any of y'all ever been to Yosemite? Oh, okay, a handful of you. For the rest of you, it's in California, okay? So Yosemite is extraordinary. I've been out there a couple times for work, and just so you know, if I ever end up out there, I don't care if it's work or not, I'm going to find a way to get into Yosemite because it just like lowers the blood pressure. It's extraordinary. You go down in the valley, and it's a 360 view. You can look, any direction. You just spin around and it takes your breath away everywhere. You go up to Glacier Point and start looking out over everything. It's just incredible. It's just a really, really unique, cool place. Picture doesn't do it justice. So I was a little surprised when I was doing some research on Yosemite to run across this very real online review. A person posted, trees block view and there are too many gray rocks. 1 star. It's just like, there's always one in there. It's like, you're never going to be happy in life. I don't know who you are, but you might as well give up trying to find joy. I wanted to ask this person, where did you think you were going? I don't know what they expected. But anyway, the other place that came to mind for me, and this feels a little bit like a flex, so I got to explain the context because I want you to understand why. But last year for my niece's senior trip, she wanted to go to Hawaii, and she wanted the whole family to go. So it became one of those big, everybody goes together over to Hawaii. And while we were in Hawaii, we were on Maui, and our family, my immediate family, we're big into going to national parks. And there's a national park there called Haleakala National Park. And the real thing you do in this park, I mean, you can go on trails, but honestly, there's not a ton to see. But the big thing that makes this park so attractive is that you can go up to about 10,000 feet to a summit, and you can be above the clouds, and you can watch a sunrise or a sunset. And it's, everything you read about was like, people were like, this is stunning. And so I asked my wife, would you like to go watch a sunrise? We'll have to get up about 3 a.m. to be able to do it, to get up there, because, there's always a line, there's not only so many spots. And she said, do you want to get divorced? So I said, okay, how about the sunset? And she's like, that's much better. All right, so we didn't get up before sun got up, but we did see a sunset. This is the best picture I could find. This picture annoys me a little bit because my kids are in the way. I wish I could. You understand that, moms, don't you? Anyway. But you can kind of see, like, there's an observatory here, but if you start looking, you kind of see the clouds, and their heads are in the way of the sun. They've messed up the view. But you got, I love you, kid. My son's in here. I love you, James. But you were in the way. So anyway, you can kind of see that. I mean, it's just stunning because you watch sunsets. You never watch a sunset go below the cloud line. It was just the colors, everything was just unreal. So again, I was a little surprised when I ran across somebody who did this and posted pretty average experience. So 1 star. I'm like, all right, I don't think there's anything in the world that'll make you happy. I don't know what it is. But anyway, the reason I bring that up is I thought it might be a little encouraging, particularly for you moms, because next time this happens, and it probably will be today, next time your kids complain or gripe to you about something you didn't do well enough, you just remember there are people in this world who just can't recognize greatness, okay? You're in the same category as Yosemite and Haleakala. Those 1-star reviews, they shouldn't faze you. Just go, oh, those people don't know. That's what I tell myself every time you give me a 1-star review on a sermon, by the way, and it helps me quite a bit. Hey, this is week 3 of our series we're calling Gaming Relationships. If you hadn't been with us, we're talking about games we tend to play in relationships that undermine the relationships we say matter most. Games we play in relationships that end up being counterproductive to the thing that we most want in relationships. Now, all of us are competitive. All of us like to win in different areas. Some of us are really, really competitive. And that's okay in most every area of life to pursue win-lose outcomes. There's a winner and there's a loser, and there should be, and that's perfectly fine. But when it comes to relationships, bringing that competitive spirit and playing win-lose games doesn't work very well. As a matter of fact, relationally speaking, a game that requires a loser is a game nobody wins. Just in relationships, when you are pursuing win-lose outcomes, when you're trying to get your way, but you winning means they're going to lose, that turns out to be a game that nobody wins. And this is true in every relationship and every facet of our lives. It's certainly true when you think about home. It's the easiest way to think about it, because you think you've won some arguments at home. You think you've gotten your way in some situations. But what prize did you actually win? Not one you wanted, was it? It didn't turn out well in the long run, because the win was not to get your way. The win in a relationship is always the relationship. And anytime we play these games, it's so natural to do, but anytime we play these win-lose kind of games in our relationships, and the relationship is not the ultimate win, you getting your way, my getting my way is, well, it undermines the thing that we actually want the most. And so over the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about some of these games that we all tend to play. They come naturally to us. We don't even realize sometimes we're playing them. Today, we're going to focus on this one, the change game. All of us have played the change game. You're very familiar with it. The change game is simply when you are in a relationship with somebody, work, home, school, team, you name it, and there's something about them you want to fix. You know, I want to fix him. I want to fix her. I want to change them. I want to change that. I want them to operate or act or think or interact with me in a different way. So you go about trying to change them, maybe without them knowing it. Some of you are really subtle. You try to do it without them knowing it. Some of us are a little more forceful. We just come in and be like, hey, so we're just very direct about it. But the problem is, and you know this, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. The problem is when you play the change game in a relationship, it is always detrimental to the relationship. But it is so natural to do this because it is so natural to be critical. It is so natural to focus on the negatives over the positives. It is so natural just to hunt for the faults of another person and to be quick to point all of that out. And then, as if that isn't enough, the other reason it's so detrimental is because when you play the change game, you are actually trying to play the role of God in that person's life. In essence, you are saying, no, I'm going to step in. I know what's best for you. And so I'm going to act as if I'm God, and I'm going to tell you all the things that need to change in your life so that you can live the best life you could possibly live. Just listen to me, and everything's going to be good. And you have done that with some people, and you know how it works, don't you? You have done that with some people, and they have responded every time by saying, I am full of gratitude right now for your willingness to. No, they did not do that. That doesn't end well. And you've experienced this being on the other side. Whenever somebody tries to change you in this way, it creates strong internal resistance, which does not draw you closer to the person. It pushes you further away. It creates distance in your relationship with that person, which again, this is all I want you to think about. It is counterproductive because the thing that you both want in that relationship, whatever the relationship is for it to be a healthy relationship, for it to work well, for it to be something that is life-giving to you. And instead, you are engaging in a game that's actually creating the exact opposite effect. You think by trying to change them, it's going to make your relationship better. If you just fix that or change that, we would be better. And in reality, by pointing that out, you are making things worse. And you are stepping into the role of God in somebody else's life. Maybe this is why in Jesus' most famous teaching, he looked at his crowd one day and he said these words that you've heard before: do not judge. Do not judge. In other words, don't play the change game. Now, judge doesn't mean there's no such thing as right and wrong and that you can't, have a sense of that. Judge doesn't mean you can't have honest conversations that are full of love and grace and truth, hard conversations with somebody else. That's not what he's saying. This word judge, here's what he was conveying. He was saying, do not carry an attitude of superiority in your relationship with anybody else. Do not approach somebody and relate to somebody in such a way that it feels like you're not on even turf, that you're morally superior to them in some way, that your behavior is superior, that your wisdom is superior, that your understanding is superior. And so you're going to hunt for their faults and try to help them get up to your level. You're going to point out all the flaws that they have and try to help them be a better person. He's going, no. That never works. That's never wise. He's going, do not judge. When you're in a relationship with somebody, don't approach somebody in such a way that you send the attitude that you're superior to them. Or, he warns us, if you're critical before you're compassionate, you're going to end up harming the relationship. Do not judge. Because if you're critical before you are compassionate, you know what this means, don't you? It means, okay, I'm watching you and I'm watching your behavior and I'm seeing what you do. And if my first instinct is always to point out your faults and your flaws, I've just fell into the trap of judging. Now, if I'm compassionate first, that means before I criticize, I'm going to try to be in your shoes and understand where you are and why you would make the choices you would make. I'm going to take the whole context of the situation into account. I'm going to realize that, oh man, if I'd gone through what they'd gone through, or if I'd had that upbringing, or if I was in that situation, okay, I can see. Or I'm going to take into account how far you've come and how much you've grown. So I'm going to think about the person first before I'm quick to criticize a fault in them. Jesus is going, you know how you stay out of this trap? You're not critical before you're compassionate. Or another way to think about this is, you don't need to be legalistic rather than loving. Legalistic rather than loving. In other words, you can never elevate your moral, or hey, if you're a Jesus follower, if you're a church person, you can never elevate your moral or your theological position above the person. Whenever your sense of right and wrong, that's your moral standard, or in some cases your theological standard. Whenever your sense of right and wrong is more important to you than the person across from you, you got it wrong. This is what Jesus is trying to help us understand. Whenever your moral position of right and wrong devalues the person across from you, you have done something wrong. So he says, do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you'll be judged with the measure you use. It'll be measured to you. None of us want to be treated this way, do we? None of us want somebody, you know how you react when somebody judges you, points out your flaws, hunts down your faults, and tries to get you to change. Whenever somebody tries to fix you, you resist it. You hate it. He's going, okay, you don't want to be treated that way. So you better watch how you interact with people in all of your relationships, because if you play the change game with them, they will, in essence, play the change game with you. It's just natural. And it will become a vicious cycle that ends up tearing apart a relationship, damaging a relationship that you actually value. When there's an issue that you have, how do you want somebody to approach you about it? Not with carrying an attitude of superiority, do you? You want them to approach you with love and humility and kindness. And you have had some moments where people approached you that way, and you were wide open to listening what they had to say. You did not get defensive because you felt accepted. But when they approach you carrying an attitude of superiority, you always resist. So he's going, okay, you know how you want to be approached. Just approach people the same way. Don't have this mindset that I'm better than you because I don't have that issue and you have that issue. Jesus says, you have lost touch with reality. He asks us a question. He goes on and he says, why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye? You pay no attention to the plank in your own eye. Now, I know the answer to this question. The answer, Jesus, is I actually don't have a plank in my eye. That's the answer. So I think I'm doing pretty good here, and they don't have a speck. They're the ones with the plank. And Jesus going, okay, you missed it. You missed it. His point is, You carry an attitude of superiority and fall into the trap of judging people when you are not self-aware of your own issues, when you have blind spots. As long as you are unaware of all the things going on in you that need to be fixed, as long as you're unaware of what it's like to be on the other side of you, as long as you're unaware of, oh man, I probably am doing things that are also creating issues. As long as you're unaware of that, it's really easy to say, oh, I got a little speck, you got a plank. Jesus is going, no. The only reason you would carry an attitude of superiority and think you're better than somebody else as you approach them about an issue is if you can't see your own. So he goes on, he says, how? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye when all the time there's a plank in your own eye? Well, the only way a person would do this is if their own pride had blinded them to their own issues. And we are all guilty of that at times. Matter of fact, every time you catch yourself judging, you are guilty of your pride blinding you to your own issues. Otherwise, you wouldn't be judgmental in the way you approach it. So, Jesus gets really direct. He says, there is a word for all of us when we do this. You hypocrite. He says, that's a word. Whenever you fall into the trap of judging, you're being hypocritical. You know what toxic hypocrisy looks like? It looks like ignorance plus arrogance. Ignorance plus arrogance. That is hypocrisy. Ignorance, I am ignorant to all the stuff that I need to work on in me. And arrogance, I think I've got it put together well enough that I can tell you what you need to work on in you. Ignorance and arrogance create hypocrisy every single time. So Jesus says, here's the remedy for our hypocrisy. You hypocrite. He says, first, take the plank out of your own eye. First, deal with your own issues. First, address all that stuff in you. And then you can see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Now, here's what I don't want you to miss. Jesus is assuming, because he knows we need it, he is assuming we're going to have hard conversations with one another sometime. He's not saying never have that. He's not saying never sit down with somebody that you're in a relationship with and say, hey, there's something going on that I'm noticing. I just want to talk to you about it because I'm afraid it's going to hurt you. Or I want to get some more context around it because I'm afraid it might lead you in a direction you don't want to go. No, he's saying absolutely have those conversations. But what happens in you before you have that conversation makes all the difference in the world. You got to deal with your own issues first. And you got to approach that conversation from a standpoint of, I am not superior. We are on a level playing field. I'm somebody with issues of my own, trying to help a that I care about, who also may have a little issue themselves. But this is not what we tend to experience in relationships, is it? Nope. We play the change game. We play a game where I feel like I know what I need to know and I have it together as well as I need to have it together to start telling you how to change and how to live and what to do. The best way I know to illustrate it is this. I brought some props today. It's Mother's Day. I thought I'd go above and beyond, all right? But you're gonna laugh at these props, and the reason you're gonna laugh is because what I really needed, I was too cheap to order. So if you ever wonder if we waste money around here, you're about to discover we don't. Because I needed a magnifying glass. Instead, I just went and got one from the kids area, and so it looks like this, okay? That's all I got. Kind of defeats the whole purpose, but you can use your imagination. So anyway, here's how we tend to interact in relationships. Without realizing it, it is our default to walk around with a magnifier. And we begin to interact with all the people we interact with. And because it's so natural to be critical, we just walk around and we start spotting all the faults. It's like we're on a hunt for faults with people. And the problem is, not only do we spot the fault, but we see the fault through a magnifier. And so their little issues that are just specks, Jesus says, they look like planks to us. So we're like, oh yeah, I got to tell them about that. And oh yeah, I need to help them change that. And oh yeah, they better get that figured out. Because to us, it's a massive plank when if we just drop the magnifier, we'd realize, oh no, it's actually not that big a deal. And I got my own issues. But we don't. We walk around with a magnifier. Now, you have been on the other side of a relationship where the person carried a magnifying glass around and where they were constantly pointing out your faults, constantly pointing out, hey, you did that wrong. Hey, that's not the way we do that. Hey, you got to change that. Hey. And they may have told you a few positives, but it felt like just a barrage of negatives all the time. You've been on the other side of these. You felt like there's nothing I can do to make them happy. And you know what it does to a person when somebody is interacting with them with a magnifying glass. That person feels unloved, unworthy, and insecure. You've been there. No matter how hard you tried, no matter how much effort you gave, no matter how well you listened and, okay, I'll work on it. You just couldn't make them happy. And it wasn't entirely a you problem. It's because your little specks looked like planks to them, and they communicated with you in such a way that it felt like a plank. And Jesus' point is, at some point you have to, if you want to have healthy relationships, you have to quit playing the change game. You got to put this down. You have to play a different game. You have to play what he's inviting us into, which is the grace game. Now, here's how the grace game works. You spend way less time looking through this, and you spend way more time looking into this. My Kid Men prop for a mirror. You're welcome. I blinded some of you right there. So anyway, but you spend way more time looking in the mirror. You spend way more time going, I know I've got issues. Let me figure out what my issues are, and let me work on my issues. Let me deal with the stuff going on inside of me. Hey, I know it can't be amazing to be on the other side of me in this relationship. What can I do to make this relationship better? I can fix some of my faults. I can address some of my flaws. I can deal with some of the things I'm doing that's undermining this relationship. And then, oh, by the way, there's a one little thing that I can't change that's on you, so we'll talk about that. But when you play the grace game, you are not approaching it with carrying an attitude of superiority. You're approaching it going, hey, I spend a lot of time looking in the mirror, and I know how many things I do that I wish I could change, and I'm working on them. So I'm not talking to you about this because I think I'm better than you. We're at a level playing field. I may not even be as good as you, but there's something because I care about you that I want to talk to you about. That is an entirely different conversation, isn't it? When you play the grace game, when you come from the standpoint of, no, I'm no better. We're trying to help each other. I need your help, and there's something I want to ask you about. That is received differently. And it's received differently because you approached it with love, humility, and kindness, which means that person knows they are fully accepted by you. And acceptance paves the way to influence. And here's the irony. The grace game actually brings about more change in a person than the change game. The grace game actually motivates people to accept what you see that may be a blind spot for them and begin to change. But a magnifying glass, they'll never respond well to that. So if you're sitting there going, well, I don't know how to tell which I'm doing. Well, here's a simple way to tell. Here's how the grace game works. Your heart loves people before your mind judges them. That's how you're playing the grace game. In other words, when I see something in you, if the first reaction I have is for my mind to judge you and to point it out, or maybe to talk about with somebody else, or even internally to go, I can't believe, and they need to fix and change, that's messing with me. If your mind is the first response you have, I'm going to be critical and judgmental. You're playing the change game. The way the grace game works is I see something in you, and the first thing that engages is my heart and my love for you. And I'm more concerned with what it's going to do to you and the impact it's going to have on you than how it's impacting me. And I'm more concerned with making sure you know that you are loved and accepted by me than you behaving in a way that works better for me. That's a grace game. And that leads to a very different conversation. So, my question for you today is really simple. Which one of these do you hold up more in your relationships? And if it's just been natural for you, like a lot of us who don't even realize we're doing it, if it's just been natural for you to hold up a magnifying glass, if it's just been natural for you to be critical and point out faults and flaws. And, well, yeah, I see what could, if you just do what I said, you'd be so much better. The challenge for us is to put this down and to pick this up and to look in the mirror and to own our stuff and to be honest about our stuff and maybe to go to the person that we're in a relationship with and say, I think I've identified some stuff in me that's probably impacting you, and I want you to know I've seen it and I'm sorry. It's not a blind spot anymore. And I'm working on it and I'm going to try to change. That's what the grace game looks like. And the more you do this, the healthier your conversations will be with people when you have to talk about issues that have come between you. The more you do this, ironically enough, the more motivated they will be to change because they feel fully accepted and loved in the relationship. Now, for those of you who are pushing back and you're thinking, but you don't know my situation, and this person, they got some real destructive things going on, or they do some things that just really set me off, and I don't even think they love me because they would stop doing it if you got this long reason why you should just keep pointing it out. Let me remind you of something. However big the gap is between where you think you are and where they are, however higher you feel like you are than them, let me remind you, that gap is tiny compared to the gap between Jesus and you and Jesus and me. If there was ever a person who could have walked the earth with a magnifying glass and been justified to do it, it was Jesus. I mean, he knew the hearts and the minds of everybody. If he had played the change game the way we did, he would have spent his entire time on earth walking around going, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. I know what you thought last night. You're wrong. I know where you were last night. You're wrong. It would have just been constant because he knew all the faults and flaws of everybody. But that is not how he chose to relate to us. He did not play the change game. He played the grace game. And sure, he had conversations with people and he invited them to change their life, but he did it out of his love for them. He didn't do it from a critical standpoint, from an attitude of superiority. And people responded to it and people changed because they knew that his heart loved them. Way, way, way more than his mind judged them. For some of you, you know that. You've experienced that. For some of you, that's brand new to you. But this is the whole point of grace. This is what grace looks like. I care about you more than I care about you cleaning up whatever's going on. I love you more than I love you acting just like I want you to act all the time. That you matter. I value you more than me getting what I want from you. That is what Jesus did for us, and he proved his grace by going to a Roman cross and giving his life so he could offer us forgiveness freely and a place to be a son or a daughter of God's in his family forever. Not once we cleaned everything up and fixed everything. No, we were invited in just like we were. And his grace has been changing our lives ever since. And if you have never experienced that, it will change yours as well. It will change yours just like Morgan mentioned, not because you're carrying around all this shame and guilt. It'll change yours because you realize, oh my gosh, I know I don't have it all together, and he still loves me like that anyway. You'll begin to relate to him differently, and you'll change out of love, not out of guilt. So grace, it's freely offered to all of us by Jesus. If you've never experienced it, you can ask for it right now. You tell him you want his forgiveness, you want to be a part of his family, and he will give it to you. You don't have to clean anything up. You don't have to change anything before that happens. Because this is how Jesus chooses to relate to all of us. So, for those of us who follow Jesus, in every relationship we're in, home, work, school, team, neighborhood, you name it, when people interact with us, they ought to catch a little glimpse of that grace. They ought to see that our heart loves them way before our mind judges them. They ought to get a little glimpse of how their Heavenly Father feels about them. This is how you win in a relationship. Not by judging, carrying an attitude of superiority, but by putting down the magnifying glass, picking up the mirror, and saying, hey, you help me, I'll help you, and we're going to love each other through it no matter what. Let me pray for us. Father, it's so easy for us to fall into the habit of being critical, of pointing out all the wrongs, of rarely celebrating the good, of hunting for the faults of other people and magnifying them and making little things feel like huge things. So this week, would you help us to be aware of when we're doing that, and maybe we don't even know it, and give us the courage to put down the magnifier, to pick up a mirror, and to relate to the people in our lives the same way you have chosen in your grace and goodness to relate to us. Thank you, Jesus, for modeling this for us, and thank you for having a heart that loves us way before your mind judges us. That's in your name we pray. Amen. Hey, if you'd like more content like this, subscribe to our YouTube channel and download our Journey app to access all of our recent message content. And our app is the easiest way to share this content with a friend. For more information on our church or to find our app or our YouTube channel, just visit JourneyCalway.com. That's JourneyCalway.com. Thanks for listening.